Well, let's take a few minutes and just talk about the what is necessary when it comes to setting up your accounting, when comes to setting up your bookkeeping as a new church and as a church planter. The first thing I want to encourage you as a pastor to do everything you possibly can to get your hands out of the accounting, out of the bookkeeping as quickly as possible. And that would be even areas that may be a conflict of interest. Maybe, for instance, your spouse is really good at the accounting side of things, but because of the close proximity that the spouse has to you as the pastor, this is an area that you most likely want to just avoid. And I would caution you from that. And so find somebody either in your church that actually has, professional level accounting experience. It's much more even so if they have experience dealing with nonprofit accounting, or I would encourage you to do a couple things. One, look at hiring a group that's out there that they specialize in handling the bookkeeping, the payroll, the accounting side of church work. There are a lot of different groups that you can use out there. My kind of go-to is Church Plant Solutions. The founder of that is a man named Jeff Gauss. He was a church planter, also a corporate accountant. So he has a lot of experience when it comes to the church accounting. Or what I would encourage you to do is maybe you connect with a mega church in your community that most likely has several accounting people that work in their accounting department. And most of them are probably part-time and would love to have a little bit of side work. And you could probably look at an hourly rate type of agreement, at least early on, to get your books set up and to manage the basic accounting components. So how do we do this? I want to encourage you to think from a couple of different angles. One is you want to make sure that you have a two-person system in place when it comes to how the finances are held. You need first a financial administrator, and then you need what we would call a bookkeeper. And here's kind of a basic outline of how you differentiate the roles of each. So a financial administrator, they're going to handle and help with the overall counting, the depositing, the receiving of any type of gifts that come in. They're going to help with gift tracking, even at a standpoint of sending out quarterly giving reports. Now, let me just pause there. I want to highly encourage you as a church, as quickly as you possibly can, and it is a little bit tedious, and yes, it takes time, but to send out quarterly giving reports to all of those people that give in the local church. And the reason is this is an incredible opportunity for you to connect vision to their giving. And so not only I would encourage you to send out that quarterly giving report, just saying, hey, we want to make sure that we're on track and that we're not missing something that you donated to church, but I would include in that a letter that just outlines, number one, a thank you for them being generous and giving towards the life of the church, but also highlighting that in the next season, in this next quarter, here's some key vision components that we're focused on in life of the church. And so I just want to say thank you for helping those things actually become a reality. And that will go a long ways in just creating buy-in long-term from those that are part of your church. And so, again, I would, as quickly as you possibly can, look at sending out those quarterly giving statements. Now, how does the financial administrator's job description differentiate from an official bookkeeper? Well, the bookkeeper is more about check signing. They're going to take care of bill payment. So they're going to have a different level of access to the ability to be able to handle funds or send funds as a result. They're going to tackle reimbursements for any type of staff or leadership issues that need to be taken care of. It may be as simply as who's buying the coffee that they put on their personal credit card, and they need to be reimbursed every month for the church coffee. And so you want to make sure you have an easy process for reimbursements to take place. They're going to help manage the overall budgeting and reporting. They're going to put your P&L or your profit and loss statements together so that the leadership, the board, or you as the lead pastor has quick access on a monthly basis to kind of know where are we and where are we missing out. And then they're going to actually handle, as a part of that, the kind of the cash flow management, making sure that we're not getting too heavy when it comes to our expenses versus what we're actually bringing in. In other words, they kind of sound the alarm when those things get out of balance and out of rhythm when it comes to the life of the church. But you want to make sure you have a financial administrator. You want to make sure you have a bookkeeper. In our terms, we have a financial administrator has a lot of great experience in accounting in large church situations. She donates her time managing that for us. And then we have a hired bookkeeper that we pay on a monthly basis, and she tackles the other things that you see kind of job description here. But you need to make sure that you have a real good checks and balance that's in place. That's where the power of having a two-person system in place to make sure that nobody has access to be able to actually steal any type of funds. And friends, this happens, and it happens more often than you would ever imagine in the life of a church. And even large churches that you would expect have all the checks and balances, I've seen get taken for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you want to make sure that you have a really tight process. And that's where I would actually encourage you as well, that you don't necessarily need to do it year one, but as the church ages, you need to begin to do a yearly auditing process over the financial systems and the financial structure in the life of the church to catch anything that could be a potential hole that would allow any type of money to flow in a direction that it shouldn't. The other thing is you want to think through is kind of the water tank principle. And again, if you're a church planter, you're starting slow and you want to build up your savings. And I would encourage you to set a certain percentage early on to say this just automatically gets allocated towards savings no matter what. Maybe if you're tight, I would say minimum of 3%. If you could get to 10%, that would be fantastic. Just dumping that into savings. That will help you long-term to be able to pull the trigger when opportunity presents itself. You want to make your initial goal to get 60 days of your monthly expenses saved in a savings account so that if you go through any major crisis, you have the funds to be able to wade through those crises and to give you time to kind of acclimate or time to change something that needs to be changed. As quickly then as you can get from 60, get to 90. And you want really, honestly, everybody needs to have at least 3 months of monthly expenses in the savings reserves. Now, the way that the kind of water tank principle is when we dip under 90 days, we need to begin to kind of watch, okay, why are we dipping? What's going on? See if you can figure out why we're losing funds. And maybe it was intentional, but maybe it's unintentional. And so that will help you. But by the time you get to 60 days, this is critical level. This is where you need to begin to make some changes and implement. Maybe we need to cut budgets. Maybe we need to go on a spending freeze in order to kind of ride the season out. Again, it is not abnormal in the life of the church to face some type of financial crisis, even more so in a church plant. This will help you in that process. Now, early too, as you're thinking through budgeting and setting up your budget, church plant, it's really hard to know how do we set up a budget because you don't have a lot of history to base your budget on. And so I would encourage you to think quarterly budgets for the first couple of years. We're going to set this quarterly budget, and then based on what comes in that quarter, that's what we will set the second quarter budget on. So you actually set the second budget based on the actual amount of cash flow that came in the doors in the first quarter, if that makes sense. And so same thing when it comes to third quarter. We look at the second quarter. What did we actually bring in the second quarter? That's what we will make our budget for the third quarter. And I would encourage you to actually carry that for 2 years, and then you'll be able to get a snapshot of how does our church seem to operate financially, and how could we actually maybe establish a yearly budget. And so that'll give you a much more accurate picture when it comes to setting up your yearly budget as well. We could talk for hours on this, but that gives you a quick overview. If you have questions and want to dive a little bit deeper, let me know. And I'd love to be able to walk you through just setting up and establishing strong financial accountability in the life for your church.